inspiring bosses. In Nigeria, business is in our DNA. From micro-business to startups to world-conquering brands. Every success story has something in common. They all started somewhere. Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts. Global Business Report gets to the heart of business. We bring you the stories making headlines across the globe with in-depth analysis from experts and executives.
This is not business as usual. This is the Global Business Report.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst and Malabite Great One, Emmanuel Ifeni.
Good morning, Ruben.
Good morning.
Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning,
Good
Mr.
morning,
Ifeni.
Rufai.
Morning, sir.
Yes, we'll start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. Now we'll start with the story above the masthead. Rail. Federal government secures $1.3 billion for completion of Kano, Katsina, Jibia, Maradi project. Yes, the project started by the Buhari administration that will take rail services all the way to Maradi in Niger Republic. Yes, the Niger Republic, ECOWAS, led by Nigeria, placed heavy sanction on in the wake of that military coup. Now, some money coming in there for the government to complete that project. Well, it will increase trade between both countries, and both countries have been kit and keen with the states bordering Niger, families having kids and kin across the border, of course, including former President Muhammadu Buhari himself, who have his cousins on the other side of the divide. No wonder he pursued this project with verve and gusto. Now, more money coming in for that project. Now, the lead story, Tinubu meets Akpabio Jibrin after Senate suspends Ningi over budget padding allegations. Jarigbe, spokesperson, disagree over alleged 500 million naira lages to lawmakers. Senate leader claims some senators planning to impeach Akpabio before June. Embattled senator resigns as Northern Senators Forum chair. Yes, Senator Abdul Ningi had this opportunity yesterday to prove his case. He stood his ground to a great extent, but at the end of the day, he had to be suspended for 3 months. And with his pile of documents right in his front, what he has in those documents, I'm sure Nigerians are interested, because he said that he has proof for what he called the gaps, and including what he termed as double entries of some projects and allocations. The last has not been heard of. What is happening at the Senate. A good time to take a very serious look at the budgeting process, especially at the federal level. A situation where the budget was presented on November 30. By December 31, it has been passed and a few days later signed into law. What manner of rigor went into that budgeting process? So it's not surprising that we have so many questions and question marks here and there, which Senator Ningi highlighted. Yes, maybe not the way he put it, but I think we still need to take a critical look at the budgeting process. as it operates at the federal level. And because there need to be transparency, perhaps we all should be more interested in how our commonwealth are located, deployed in all manner of ways, especially at the National Assembly level. Of course, one of the highlights, the revelation, 500 million naira awards. We look at the Guardian newspaper now, the Guardian. Yes, 500 million naira award to ranking senators on set to expose National Assembly rot. Of course, many senators cringed, especially if you were to be a ranking senator, when Senator Jarigbe mentioned 500 million naira received by some of you, some ranking senators. I did not receive, he said, and at that point, that was at the point the session went rowdy because there was an attempt to silence him. I don't want to use the word off the mic because I don't have any proof that his mic was put off, but there was an attempt to silence him, and you saw the shoving here and there as if he has just released a bombshell, as it were. But constituency project, 500 million for ranking senators. We also want to see those projects they're talking about. So it's not like constituent project being used as a euphemism for a gift to ranking senators. But the Senate still has a lot of work to do to show Nigerians that what they are doing is transparent in the best interest of all of us. Because what we saw yesterday, and we'll pay attention to what is in those documents, because as Senator Ningi told the world earlier, that his own investigation is still on, the consultants, his commission are still working, and he had this pile of documents yesterday. I thought they would have asked him to open his documents and let's see what is inside. But again, kudos that was done publicly. It was a public hearing, contrary to what was initially proposed, a closed-door session, because it would have been done in a paddy manner and they'll just give us the outcome. But we all saw what transpired yesterday. Now, the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, the same lead story, alleged 3.7 trillion budget padding, House senators nailed Ningi. Now, the Punch newspaper, the same lead story, but we look at other stories. Yes, if we look at the story, the Nigerian Tribune, yes, the story below the photograph, WTO to boost Nigeria's non-oil export with $1.2 million. Now, we go to the Daily Sun newspaper, the lead story also, senators expose one another. But the story beside the masthead, Atiku dismisses report of leaving PDP, accuses Tinubu allies of being behind report. Now, the story below the photograph, the front page of the Daily Sun newspaper. Criminals plan to attack schools, farms in Osun. Adeleke cries out. Well, these gunmen are still attacking people all over the place. Another report there. Gunmen attack UNTH, abduct deputy director, security man. That's in Enugu State. Bandits kidnapped fresh 30 persons as IGP visits Kaduna. Now, the Daily Telegraph newspaper, the lead story also about bandits. Bandits again invade Kaduna community, abduct 61 in seeming renewed focus on school children, women. Soldiers stopped them from taking more victims. Resident IGP deploy mobile police unit. Gumi offers to negotiate with terrorists. Gumi again offering to negotiate with terrorists. Well, I think that's something the security agencies should listen to, look at critically. Now, the Daily Independent newspaper, I skipped the lead story there and just look at the story below the photograph. Kidnapping. Afenifere calls for multi-level policing stakeholders meeting. While another story there in front page of the Daily Independent newspaper. Tinubu appoints former Lamata MD Dayo Moberola as Nimasa DG, reaffirms commitment to enhancing maritime security in Gulf of Guinea. Now, the Leadership newspaper, yes, the one story there. Tinubu has you in mind, Shetima tells Nigerians. Of course, that's a no-brainer. We gave the president a job to do. We should occupy his mind day and night. Solve the myriad of problems plaguing the nation, the rising cost of food, and all other issues, including insecurity that is just all over the land. Now, the Business Day newspaper, rising diesel cost chokes businesses. Now, the foreign newspaper, we start with the Times of London. Rwanda plan will offer migrants £3,000 to live. Separate voluntary scheme is aimed at failed asylum seekers from war-torn countries. Well, I'm sure this looks like an attractive option for asylum seekers. Instead of going to taking them and dumping them in Rwanda, they'll be given £3,000 to return. Well, if they're coming from war-torn area and they're running from persecution, I don't see how that can solve their problem unless they are able to move to some other country. The Daily Telegraph newspaper, Stammer will allow assisted dying vote. Law could be changed by the end of decade if Labour wins general election. Of course, Ruben, this is talking about euthanasia, one of a very familiar subject we study in philosophy. Yes.
That's assisted suicide.
Yes, assisted suicide. Now, assisted death, I would say, because persons who look for these options are persons who don't have any hope of recovering from their ailment. They are in maybe the vegetative state and they rather want to die. But what people do now, they go to countries, they move over to countries where this law allows it, and they are assisted to die. Well, that is whether it is good or not. Of course, it's a philosophical topic. Now, the Financial Times of London, inflation's rise to 3.2% challenges Fed stamina for last mile in price battle. Of course, the inflation figures in the US, economists had predicted that it will not move from 3.1 in January, but alas, it moved to 3.2. And of course, the prospect of rate cuts is also high there in the light of this development. Now, the Washington Post, Biden secures needed delegates. Of course, President Biden has secured the needed delegates. Of course, no challenger really is the candidate of the Democratic Party. On the red corner, of course, is former President Donald Trump, who has secured the needed votes to pick the ticket, the battle of old men. First time in over 70 years when incumbent will be running against a former president. Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo.
Okay. I'd like to talk more about the budget. And I'm happy about the fact that Senator Ningi might have not done a good job as regards of presentation. The House of Service interview, tried to get to a certain base and a lot of other revelations, that came out yesterday. But like you said rightly, let us scrutinize what is in Ningi's document. I still insist. And, it's because we've demonized the word padding. The word padding, there's nothing bad about it. What is padding? Adding unnecessary words to be able to enrich an information. Based on that, when you go through the line item, that budget is padded. I'll give you instances. Take, for instance, you're talking about a ministry here. You are saying local travel and transport. That's 2202-011. Local travel and transport training. Local travel and transport orders. 2 line items for local transport. at varying costs for training others. What does the others mean? International travel training, international travel and transport others. 2 line items. So if you say a lot of things were put in, a lot of words and everything, that's padding. So let's not, at first, in this conversation, let's not demonize the word padding. Secondly, Dr. Abati talked about the budget integrity tests. We have canvassed here on this table for something called, so like an Office of the Budget Responsibility like they have in the UK. An independent ombudsman, sort of like the work budget is doing, yeah. But it should be statutory to be able to evaluate the budget and bring out this recommendation, because you see, they hide under many things. Number one, the House has got power of appropriation, they can add to the budget. Secondly, they hide under the fact that the line item is a lot, over 2,000 pages I'm seeing here. So they can put all sorts of things in it. And that's why we would have loved to see the report. At the first instance, Ningi was not meant to be suspended. When you have such an allegation, what I would have thought is they should have brought it, reviewed it before they asked, and bring out the empirical findings. Yes, the things they went to say in the BBC interview, I say don't talk as regards, ethnic divisions and everything. That's why I condemn Ningi in the first place.
But they are also saying that he should have brought the matter.
No, but they said he brought the matter.
Instead of going to BBC.
No, but he brought the matter.
And as Akpabio added, and arise.
He brought the matter, but they were saying, no, we will look at the matter. Yes. He didn't see confidence. That's why he escalated the matter. That's what we are saying. He brought the matter. They were aware. Secondly, because what Mr. Ningi was trying to do yesterday was Mr. Akpabio, Senator Akpabio, even did worse. MOB is my person, but I will say when it has to be said. He did worse by trying to link this matter to they want to remove Akpabio. This is the first time the South in the last close to 40 years had a Senate president. When the North had Senate president, nobody disturbs them. What's the meaning of that? We don't need that in this country now. So all this ethnic baiting and division, let us scrutinize every line item.
No, because the other post by the other senator, who is partner, I don't want to say more than that, with Ningi, the other senator, that you see that post, he mentioned Akpabio.
That one too was wrong.
So it's like they wanted to demonize Akpabio,
so let's
give a dog a bad name.
Let's not ethnicize it. It's not about Akpabio. It's about
so it's the,
the budget
so
itself.
Don't just reduce it to Akpabio.
But the statement he made was that under the presidency of Akpabio. Because we always say that the buck stops with the leader.
But it stops with the leader.
The National Assembly. It does not stop with the Senate president.
Well, at least it was under his. So he as president.
Does the sorry
in terms of taking responsibility.
Does the Senate president act like he's just first among equals? That was very high-handed. That was done to Ningi, and Ningi has a right, like Dr. Abati said, to challenge in court. I think that's also
follow that. In fact, Akpabio literally made sure that thing come to 3 months.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't the one. He was the senator from this thing.
No, after 12 months was moved by Senator Ibrahim Jimo, seconded, he was looking for alternate views. 6 months came. The Senate President was still looking for alternate views until 3 months came. So at least we followed this yesterday.
Okay, just to mention that when, as we explore or discuss these matters at the Senate, I wonder what's happening in the State House of Assembly. Because one of the things, assemblies, because it was State House of Assembly, one of the things we talk about, which Dr. Bati had mentioned earlier on, was that it's a wake-up call for Nigerians to take more interest in actually checking and going through. It's not just for, at the end of the day, it's all of us that must take responsibility, even though that they're the ones who champion it in terms of scrutiny. But if we don't look in, a lot of things will be happening, going under the bridge without anybody having an idea of what is going on. So yes, I'm happy that this has come out. I hope that it will be thoroughly investigated and not just seen as an attempt to try to smear the person of the Senate president or embarrass the Senate, but to see it as a real issue that must be investigated. And I hope that this will also help us. At least the state houses of assembly are smaller. We can easily go to our representatives and also say, what's in your budget? How much money? Is there budget padding? We don't often talk about that. But a few line items that were there. I mean, one of the things that piqued a lot of interest was 7.61 billion naira for empowerment of traditional leaders. That's one item. 1,150. So in other words, what kind of empowerment? Is it training? Is it money for constituency projects for them? Is it to change their cars? It's very vague.
Necessary?
And someone was defending that. People are, some senators are defending it, that our traditional leaders are part of the process. I can understand that, but what is it for?
No, I hope
Are the states not supposed to take care of that, Dr. Abbas?
Doctor, I hope the traditional rulers are even aware that there is provision for them. They should ask. They should ask because they are.
Then let me just mention an 170 ICT project for 30.95 billion naira. What kind of ICT project? Where will it happen? So no details. So very vague, and he is well within his right to challenge this. And I hope that this will be investigated.
Well, I'm sure that we have not had the last. If I may just add to what I said earlier when we were considering this same subject under the headlines. I'm sure we have not had the last about this budget. What we've all been reminded of, apart from the takeaways that I defined earlier, is that, look, government's finances, government's expenditure process is part of the democratic process and something that requires citizens' responsibility. The budget was presented as a proposal. It's not a law. It's an act. That's why it's called an appropriation act. It's the responsibility of citizens to monitor how that budget is implemented. And I said President Tinubu should ask for an integrity test of that budget. Senator Solomon Adiola went through all the allegations of Senator Ningi on the floor of the Senate yesterday, and he tried to respond item by item to the allegations from his consultants, particularly about line items for government-owned enterprises and the 3.7 trillion. And he seemed to have offered,
some explanation.
Yeah, some detailed explanation, which has been confirmed by persons who were fact-checking. I think it was Budget that said that they were fact-checking and they didn't see any discrepancies. But as I said, we've not had the last of this. Now, to go to Sakestama. Sakestama was having a phone call with Dame Ranzen, a broadcaster who has been battling with terminal cancer and who said she wouldn't mind to have assisted death. That's how the issue of euthanasia came up. And Kestama was saying that, look, if Labour were to win the election, the forthcoming UK elections, date not yet fixed, that the Labour Party will support assisted dying. But you see, don't put too much store by what British politicians say at this time. After all, the Tories, they've given 2% insurance tax cut. They've promised all kinds of things. Now they are worrying about where to find the money to plug the black hole, in that budget. Sakestama himself has said so many things ahead of the election, including occasions when he has reversed himself, But the question of euthanasia is a different thing entirely, which relates to ethics and all that. Okay, let's go back to our old philosophy class. But there is a story on the front page of Times, the Times newspaper, which is about Rwanda.
Yes.
Now, having failed in the court, the British government now is coming up with a proposal whereby people will be offered 3,000 naira, 3,000 pounds,
not naira,
3,000 pounds to voluntarily leave the UK and relocate to Rwanda, where they don't succeed with asylum applications. So this is a variation. Now it's not compulsory. If you wish, you take 3,000 pounds and you relocate to Rwanda. And that option is available to hundreds of thousands of persons, who are seeking a new home in the UK. Well, thank you very much, Emmanuel.